Hello all you wonderful, beautiful, and craptastic people. CraptasticJack here, and today we're going to be talking about Need for Speed 2019. Now, this is going to be part of a series that I hope to run up all the way up to at least the announcement of the next Need for Speed game, which is about 6 months from now, 6-7 months. Just judging from when they keep announcing Need for Speed games. I know with Payback, they started announcing stuff with Payback in early May. But usually late May or June is when we start hearing new things about the Need for Speed games. And that's about 5, 6, 7 months away. So I'm going to try and keep this a little mini-series until we get to the announcement of that. But basically, this series we're going to be talking about many different aspects when it comes to making a Need for Speed game. Whether it's the physics, the map, like the racing itself, the cars, what do you like to see in the game, like all of that. We're going to be trying to cover all of that in different topics throughout the series until we get to the next Need for Speed game. And every episode I'm going to be asking in my community tab, I'm going to be making a lot of use out of that. I'm going to be asking, hey, I'm doing a video in a couple days on blah blah blah, just tell me blah 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 what you want, and then I'll be choosing a bunch of people's who replied with suggestions on there. I'll be putting them in the video like I did a couple days ago with the map. I asked you guys what you would like to see out of a Need for Speed map, and I got a ton of responses. So I'm going to be choosing a good bunch of those to put into this video later down when we do the community feedback tab. But today, I'm just going to kick it off with what previous Need for Speed maps have done right, what previous Need for Speed maps have done wrong, what Payback's map did wrong, and then how the next game's map can prosper. So, without further interruptions, let us begin. So, when it comes to a Need for Speed game world, the ones that really jump to my mind are like Seacrest County, Rockport, Palmont. Like, those are the three the best maps that kind of jump to my mind, along with Ventura Bay, but not necessarily. But the main reason they pop out to me is because those were really good, well-designed Need for Speed maps. Now, even in an era where there wasn't break to drift in all Need for Speed games, Rockport and Palmont were still very windy roads, even though it was still in the city. Now, there were some tight roads and stuff, especially up near Silverton and all that, and like in the inner city downtown parts, but a lot of the city had roads designed more so like a racetrack than an actual like city. Like, you'd have roads cutting and weaving through a bunch of skyscrapers that's not realistic at all, okay? But it was still fun to drive. The city was still fun to drive around, and it still felt, you still got that city aspect, you know? It didn't feel like it was a totally like foreign place. You still felt like you were in a city, but you still had all like the skyscrapers and everything, but you still had a road system that still made it fun to drive. And then you have other games where they don't really necessarily have that. But Rockport, Seacrest County is not a city, let me get you right, but the break to drift physics work hand in hand with the map, because the map was designed obviously for the break to drift physics, but then we move on to the bad ones like Payback's map, and to a point Ventura Bay. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Ventura Bay. Ventura Bay was an awesome city, and I really felt immersed in the city. It's just the physics and the city design don't really go hand to hand. You see, Ventura Bay was built more so like a city than a racetrack, and the same goes for Payback's map, especially in the city. With Payback's map, Silver Rock City, like, there's literal grids, and there's parts of the city that are just grids, and that's not what you need, especially with a game that has break to drift physics where you're gonna be drifting around every corner. It's not necessarily what you should have. Now, if you had a physics system like Most Wanted or Carbon, even though those games didn't have grid-like cities, you could still make it a grid city alright. Like, I know Midnight Club LA, that city has grids, and yet that game's still fine with its physics. But when it comes to Payback, the physics don't go hand in hand with the map, because the map has just grids and everything now, aside from like the main strip and everything, but it's built more so like a city, like a real place, than an actual like racetrack. And I kind of understand what they want to do with that, but at the same time, if you're going to be using the physics of Break the Drift, then that's not necessarily gonna work. And with Ghost Games pretty much coming out on Reddit and saying that, yeah, we're gonna be keeping Break the Drift for the near future, then I really don't think the next map should have more so grid system. It should be built more like a racetrack. Even when you're in the city, have roads that are winding through the city, and like you can have sharp corn. You can have sharp corn. You can also have sharp corners, and like everything sharp turns. But like overall, make it fun to drive, because first off, there weren't even any races in the city, Silver Rock, for some reason. There were barely any. So you can't really test it out, but like I bet going around grid, like corners and stuff and grids, is not necessarily fun, especially with Break the Drift. Like, make the map in tune with the physics, okay? Like, make it, if you know what I mean, make it more like Seacrest County, in the sense that it's not like a rural area. It's more so like the physics are built for the map, or the map is built for the physics, if you know what I mean. So that's, in my opinion, why Payback's map was bad, aside from the fact that most of it was desert, and it just felt bland. It felt dry, it felt like shit, and it looked like shit too. So just, too much desert. The city was designed as a real city and not a fun city, and the collectibles were boring. And like yay, collecting coins, ships all across. What do you get for it? You don't get much. And like billboards and stuff, okay, they're cool, but what's pushing me to do them? Nothing's really pushing me to go and smash all the billboards. Also, you cannot fast travel to events, only to crummy gas stations and garages. I don't know why they just removed fast travel. And then the bland, it's just bland, aside from a few cool places. And also, there's no free roam police. Now, okay, let's move on to my suggestions for the next game's map. Now, for the next game, it really needs a vibrant, unique city with each different district feeling unique. Vegas could have been a great, unique city for Silver Rock, but it just came off as having like a cool main street. But other than that, the city was just bland. Like the casino district felt like it was awesome, but other than that, it just felt bland, dry. Ugh. And the city needs to be built, again, more so for a racing game as opposed to a real city. We already covered that. Free roam police. The next game needs free roam police, okay? Part of the reason I free roamed a lot in 2015 was because of the police, despite the fact they were shit. And part of the reason why I free roam in Carbon, Undercover, and like Most Wanted is because of the police. I want to get in car chases. You just can't do that with Payback unless you go around looking for bait crates, and then the immersion's already lost because they're not just roaming around the city. Next game needs free roam police, and it also needs a bigger city with suburbs and mountains, because Silver Rock City was tiny in comparison to the rest of the map, and the rest of the map was just bland. So doesn't really help you out there. With the amount of desert and just dead space you had with the desert, you could have made the city twice as big and then still have a pretty sizable desert like area. But I'm not sure why they didn't do that, but whatever. You also need a rural area for high-speed races and chases. Like, I'm thinking like a Seacrest County area, but like it's part of the map alongside the city and everything, with the mountains for drifting and like the cool areas for that, and then if they're putting in off-roading, which I don't want them to do, have certain areas for off-roading, but don't make it open in the sense that you could go anywhere. Have them like closed off trails, if you know what I mean, for the off-roading. Like, say, I don't know, like a dirt path area or like a quarry or something where you can go off-roading. That I feel like could work with off-roading, but I'd rather have it not be in the game. I'd rather have them focus on other things, okay? And then when it comes to car classes as well, it's a whole mess. We'll get into that in a separate video. Anyway, also the ability to fast travel anywhere after discovering a road or area. That way, once you discover an area or like a certain area of the map, you can fast travel to it whenever you want. Like the Crew 1. The Crew 1 in the test drive games had a perfect system for teleportation and fast traveling. You had to drive through an area first or through a road first, and then you could go and fast travel to it. That's perfect because it also promotes like exploration, but at the same time you're not having to drive everywhere, if you know what I mean. Like, as much as it's a driving game, a lot of the times you just want to go teleport to a race and vroom. Like, you don't want to have to go and drive all the way there, you know, especially if it's really far away. And especially, like, there are some races in Payback where they're not near, and they're so far in the mountains, and they're not near any teleportation areas, like, no fast travel areas. I just don't even bother with them. I just go to races that aren't there, you know? Maybe that could just be me being really lazy, but at the same time, I feel like if I could fast travel there, I'd be doing those races a lot more. Now, you gotta make the map unique. I know there were some unique things in Payback's map, like the giant robot made out of cars, but you gotta make it memorable. Like, the Crew 1's map is memorable because there's certain areas in the map that are just like, okay, this is pretty unique, like a giant inflatable cow, which I'm pretty sure they removed from the Crew 2. And like a giant inflatable cow, or like seeing New York for the first time, or just like different landmarks and everything around the map. Like, make it unique, and like be sure to like show them off. Like, have different like photo ops, like in Ventura Bay, where you can go up to these different landmarks and get like take pictures with them. Make the map unique and make it memorable, and then also make the collectibles have a purpose. Like, say you collect all the, I don't know, say for the next game they have Mario coins. I doubt that's ever gonna happen, but say you collect Mario coins, and once you get all the Mario coins scattered around the map, you unlock a unicorn car or something like that. A car that you can only get by collecting all the coins. That would promote people going out and actually collecting everything. And say you get like a cool truck or something after you smash all the billboards, then people are going to go out and smash all the billboards. Make the collectibles have a purpose. Or say you get a cool paint design when you go out and look at all the murals around the city. Like in, I know, what's it called? 2015, like you could go around looking at stuff. Like, say you get a cool paint job or something you can't get in-game without doing, like, the collecting the collectible. Have something like that. That could really make the map really stand out. And like, it makes it a lot more memorable because you're going out and you actually have a purpose to go out and look for stuff. That, I feel, could really help the game's immersion and feel of the city, because people are going out and looking at all the finer details for a reward. So they're not just doing it because they want to. Now, let's move on to what you guys had to say about the next game. I got a bunch of comments in my community tab, and by the way, this is where I'm going to be posting suggestions, asking for suggestions for future topics on not just Need for Speed but other videos as well, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. Anyway, let's start with Marshmallow. He says, I think this map should be mainly city-based along the lines of Underground 2 and 2015. Outside the city center should be snowy mountains. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Like in Rivals, like snowy mountains and stuff. I liked a realistic road network with more traffic in the urban center so it doesn't feel dead like Payback. I can see that, because Payback, even in like the downtown area, despite the fact that there was more traffic, it still felt pretty dead. Now, I'd also like the city to be much more better lit than 2015, so it looks more visually interesting and more alive. I like how he includes that as well, because 2015's map, like, even at night, it still kind of felt dark to the point where you couldn't really see well. I liked Payback's night lighting a bit better, because you could still see, like, especially with all the lights and stuff. Maybe it's because, like, it's all lit up better. You can still see, like, the city in the distance with, like, the light pollution and everything. I still like that, and how it's easier to see at night, so I can understand what he means here. Optimus Prime GTR says, I'd prefer City, and I'd prefer it not to be on Frostbite engine, some sick engine that can render it in detail like Chameleon did in 2012. It's like we're getting the same map for 3 times now, sometimes covered with snow, sometimes nighttime, and sometimes with scorching heat only. I don't really get the 3 cities part, because in my opinion, with Ghost's last 3 games, each different map felt unique in its own way. I'll give it that. But I honestly doubt we're not gonna be getting anything other than Frostbite engine. If they were working on another engine, then it'd probably take a bit more time to actually get the game out. And Frostbite's a great engine. Like, look at the Battlefield games. The Battlefield games look awesome, but at the same time, Payback looks like shit, dog shit. So I guess they kind of need a bit more help with the people at DICE to help make better use of the Frostbite engine, but I feel like Frostbite can make some sick game worlds, honestly. Up next, my boy Tuners, free roam cops, a grip handling model, and a proper upgrade system similar to the one in 2015. The tuning system in 2015, aside from the fact it was maybe a bit too easy to upgrade your car to max, it was near perfect. So why they scrapped that for card systems? No, like we want the 2015 system back. A grip handling model, which sadly we're not gonna probably be getting, because they even said on Twitter that we're continuing Break the Drift. As much as I would want it, as much as you would want it, that's probably not what we're gonna get. And then free roam cops, of course. The game world just feels dead. Maybe Ventura Bay felt alive more because there were free roam cops, at least in my opinion, as opposed to the fact that Payback feels dead because there aren't any. That's probably a big thing. Up next, we have Qasim Warsi. I apologize if I'm saying your name incorrectly. I love 2015's map, but people complaining we got Payback's Forza-style map. The checkpoints were awful because the map was too open. They had to place checkpoints like rings, compared to 2015 where there are no problems with the checkpoints. We also had no rain. Seriously, what's a Need for Speed game without rain? And we didn't have any skyscrapers, just some boring buildings. Payback has a good sized map, but not enough content. I like it. I want it like 2015. I can understand. That's actually a pretty good observation. The checkpoint system. I never really thought of that. Like, I don't like the ring system. I liked how there were certain checkpoints in 2015, but as long as you were in the general area of the checkpoint, it still counted. And I like that. It allowed you to take different shortcuts that weren't really meant to be shortcuts. Like when you're doing a corner, but there's like a little parking lot or something, you could go around the little building around it, and the parking lot, boom, that counts as a checkpoint. So I really liked that. But with Payback's Forza style map, where everything is open, they kind of had to restrict that down to make it a certain area where you have to go through. And especially in PvP, that missing checkpoints just yeah. Not a good thing. Anyway, we have the Ignitionizer saying the map needs to fit the driving physics. Break the Drift was a pain in close quarters, and the map needs to be visually interesting. Each road needs to stand out and be memorable without being too obvious and ridiculous. That exactly, this is what I was saying earlier. It needs to fit the driving physics, because you go in Payback's downtown area and Break the Drift, you obviously the city was not really built for Break to Drift, because it's just grids. So I completely understand what he's saying here. And again, the map needs to be visually interesting. Payback, once you're out of the city, does not interest me in the slightest. Aside from the Redwoods area, but that's because it reminds me of Hot Pursuit 2, okay? And each road needs to stand out. I agree with this. Each road can't just be a two-lane road going through an area, you know? Each road has to have something memorable. But then again, obviously, if everything, it needs to be memorable in some sense. Not Max says a city with a lot of back roads and alleyways, and also hilly mountains to the west, because best place for drifting. In those mountains, I'd like to be a garage that overlooks the entire city. And I wouldn't mind if the game was always dark like 2015 was. I have a feeling the next game is going to still have the day and night cycle. However, I do like the idea of back roads and alleyways, especially if the game has open world police and you can use those to hide. That would be so sick. And then the hilly mountains, of course. The mountains at this point, canyons at this point, are just a must for a Need for Speed game. Especially with the whole drifting scene and everything. So it's definitely a must. Christian Dixie says, I would like to see something along the lines of a Need for Speed world type map. So I guess what he means here is like combining two different cities. Because Need for Speed World's map was Rockport and Palmont. And it was squished together. So that'd be pretty interesting to have the next Need for Speed game be in Silver Rock and Ventura Bay again, but have them kind of combined. I'd rather have a new place. However, what I'd really like to see happen is if they pull a Test Drive Unlimited 2 and have a new map with a new story and everything. But once you finish the story and all the content on there, someone calls you up, say Travis, or someone calls you up, it's like, hey, we like your driving, come to Ventura Bay so you could drive here. So, and then you just unlock the ability to go to Ventura Bay. Like, add in the old cities from the old games as like extra content. That would be so sick. I would like to see that as well. Andrew 1010 says, I prefer a map with two cities or one city and a big town with a mountainous and plain region between the two. Again, I guess that kind of folds back to the Need for Speed World idea, only with some rural areas in between, because the game kind of needs some rural areas for high-speed driving. Like the desert, again, high-speed area for high-speed driving, a lot of straights and everything, but at least make it more interesting, you know. Just Daz says, need a map similar to 2015 Carbon or Underground 2. Make the map make sense with the physics. I guess this is a really big thing with the physics having to match the city idea, and that's kind of why Ventura Bay, as much as it was a great map, it doesn't really fit the physics, and a lot of places in the map were a bit to get through. And the same with Payback's map as well. And I'd like to see the city again be kind of like Carbon in 2015's, where like you were winding through the city at the same time you were in downtown. Redacted, I'm not sure if that was intentional or that's his actual name, but anyway, Redacted says, Need for Speed seems to be going in a direction I don't like, but it'd be really neat if we could expand upon the diversity or environments, sort of like taking Payback's huge deserts and off-road spots, maybe a less grandeur from jumping canyons, combining them with Hot Pursuit 2010's open and flowing freeways and twisty roads, in a city that's alive and technical, like Underground 2's. Maybe even feature a few proper circuits or a drag strip if they're going to really push into that direction. But all I truly care about is the manageable yet frustrating physics system, and how a lot of the game is circling around having to grind certain things. But I guess the grind is what makes us gamers, right? I really like how you brought up the freeway system of 2010, because the highways in Payback in 2015. Okay, 2015 is supposed to be set in Los Angeles, like a free creation Los Angeles, but the highways are only 2 lanes, and for the most part, why aren't they like huge open freeways like LA actually has? Hot Pursuit had them. That's another thing I like to see in the next game. Huge freeways with like open, like huge 4-lane freeways. That would be so sick. Or like the New Jersey Turnpike. If any of you know what the New Jersey Turnpike is, yeah, it's huge. So, you know, something like that. Not just 2 little dinky highways that are like easy to crash out on. Especially with Payback's map as well. The highways were 2 lanes there as well. It's just, whoa. But yeah. Anyway, Papa Bear says, an island or a chain of islands, Hawaii or Florida, and expand the Key Long Bridge and varied terrains, but the city with cities that never sleep. I like how you say cities that never sleep, because the city still needs to feel alive at night as opposed to the day. And I kind of like the Florida idea, not necessarily Hawaii. I'm kind of about Hawaii, but Florida could be a really good, like Miami could be a sick place for a Need for Speed game if you build it off that. I'm not sure what they do with the mountains though, you know, because Florida doesn't really have any mountains, but like having like a key bridge area and like have different like races and stuff along there on the islands and stuff, that could work really well. 98763 says multiple cities and quite a few off-road bits here and there, of course harboring back to the idea of the Need for Speed world. And then Moby Huge says city-based map with some areas for drifting and maybe a few areas for dirt racing. Also highways should be all surrounding the city, and an airport is a must. So pretty similar to the map of Most Wanted 2012. Okay, I like how he brings up Most Wanted 2012's map. Fairhaven, I really liked Fairhaven because it still expands the idea of a city that's built more so like a racetrack than an actual city, because the city was built for the more so towards the physics of Most Wanted 2012 as opposed to grip physics, which I really liked about Fairhaven. Most Wanted 2012 is one of my favorite Need for Speed games. I'm not ashamed to say that. It just truly is. And I like it needs areas for drifting, like canyons and all that. Maybe a few areas for dirt racing, like trails and stuff, a quarry or something. And then highways should be surrounding all the city, like a beltway. I like that idea as well. How there's like a beltway around the city. That could really work. And as long as the freeway is huge and everything, and the airport is a must. Payback had a huge ass airport that they showed proudly on the map, but you could never go into it. So you know, like an airport or an airstrip or something like drag race or something, that would be so sick to have. But anyway, those are all your suggestions that I got in the community tab. I didn't cover everyone, sorry if I missed yours, but I hope I covered a great deal with them. But that's going to be all for now. What do you guys think about the map for Need for Speed Payback? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think the next map of the next Need for Speed game should feature? But that's going to be all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one, guys.